All right, we're starting a new chapter in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna tonight. Chapter 31, Advice to Ishan. The date is Saturday, October 11th, 1884. All right, Sri Ramakrishna lay on the small couch in his room at the Dakshineshwar Temple garden. It was about 2 in the afternoon. M and Priya Mukherjee were sitting on the floor. M had left his school at 1 o'clock and had just arrived at Dakshineshwar. The master was telling anecdotes about the calculating nature of the wealthy Jadu Malik. Master, once I went to Jadu Malik's house. He asked right away, how much was the carriage hire? Someone told him it was 3 rupees and 2 annas. Then he questioned me about it. Next, one of his people secretly asked the coachman, who said it was 3 rupees and 4 annas. All laugh. At that, he ran to us and said, how much did you say the carriage hire was? So there's a difference of 2 annas there. An anna is less than a penny. I mean, they don't even make annas anymore. That's just like we just stopped making pennies. They stopped making annas. Whoa, almost what, 10 or 15 years ago now, I think. So a broker was present and he said to Jadu, there is a plot of land at Burra Bazaar for sale. Will you buy it? Jadu asked the price and the broker told him. Jadu said, won't he give it for less? I said to Jadu, come, come. You aren't going to buy the land. You're only bargaining. Isn't that so? He turned to me and laughed. That is the nature of the worldly man. He wants people to come to him. That spreads his name in the market. Jadu went to Adar's house. I told him it had made Adar very happy. He said, what? What? Was he really happy? A certain Malik came to Jadu's house, and he was a very clever and deceitful. I saw it in his eyes. I looked at him and said, it isn't good to be clever. The crow is very clever, but it eats others' filth. I could tell he was badly off. Jadu's mother was amazed and said to me, how did you know he hadn't a penny? I saw it from his appearance. Narayan entered the room and sat on the floor. The master to Priyanath, well, your Hari is a fine young man. Priyanath, what is so fine about him? Of course he has a childlike nature. Narayan, he addressed his wife as mother. Master, what? Even I can't do that. And he calls her mother. To Priyanath, you see, the boy is very quiet. His mind is directed to God. Sri Ramakrishna changed the subject of conversation. Master, do you know what Ham said? He said to Baburam, God alone is real, all else is illusory. All laugh. Oh no, he said it sincerely. Again, he told me that he would take me to his house and sing kirtan, but he didn't do it. I understand that he said later on, what will people say if I sing with drums and cymbals? He was afraid that people might think he was crazy. Haripada has fallen into the clutches of a woman of the Goshpara sect. He can't get rid of her. He says that she takes him on her lap and feeds him. She claims that she looks on him as the baby Krishna. I've warned him a great many times. She says that she thinks of him as a child, but this maternal affection soon degenerates into something dangerous. You see, you should keep far away from a woman. Then you may realize God. It is extremely harmful to have much to do with women who have bad motives. Okay, so there you have a little bit of a. It's not that it's bad to be with women. It's dangerous to be with women with bad motives. I look for something to get me off the hook there, you see. Much to do with women who have bad motives or to eat from their food from their hands. They rob a man of his spirituality, right? Only by being extremely careful about women can one preserve one's love of God. One day, Pavanat, Rakal, and some other youngsters had cooked their own meal in the temple garden. They were sitting at their meal when a Baal arrived, sat down with them, and said he wanted to eat with them. I said that there was not enough food. If anything was left, it would be kept for him. He became angry and left. On the Vijaya day, a man allows anyone and everyone to feed him with his own hand. It is not good, but one can eat food from the hand of devotees from a devotee who is pure in heart. You must be extremely careful about women. Women speak of the attitude of Gopala. Pay no attention to such things. The proverb says, a woman devours the 3 worlds. Many women, when they see handsome and healthy young men, lay snares for them. That is what they call the attitude of Gopala. Those who develop dispassion from early youth, those who roam about yearning for God from boyhood, those who refuse all worldly life belong to a different class. They belong to an unsullied aristocracy. If they develop true renunciation, they keep themselves at least 50 cubits away from women, lest their spiritual mood should be destroyed. Once falling into the clutches of women, they no longer remain on the level of unsullied aristocracy. They fall from it and come to a lower level. People who practice renunciation from early youth belong to a very high level. Their ideal is very pure. They are stainless. As we talk over the last few days, last couple of classes, there's been a lot of this kind of talk, and of course we always make sure we understand that he's talking to a bunch of young men about spiritual life. But I'm always taken by back exactly how serious he is about it. As a as a Western American dude, I'm looking at that and I'm like, what are you saying? It's very difficult to understand, but when you think of the high pitch of his mind, the purity of his mind, and the fact that he has never, experienced sex or never had any of those interactions, you see how seriously he takes care of himself to protect himself from any sign of lust, and how strict he is with his young men, in teaching them about these things. And it's not at all really at all about women. That's not what it's about. It's about the protection of their spiritual life, about the protection of their purity in their minds, so their minds don't wander into places that will get them into trouble. And so it's not teachings about women as much as it's a teaching to the men about how important it is to watch your mind and to be very careful in preserving it's freedom, right? It's freedom, not to let it get connected with the body so that it gets pulled into seeing people as objects and using people for pleasure and for a means of advancement and getting ahead. And so he's very adamant about this. And I'm always sensitive because I know if I was a woman and I was hearing this, I'd be like, hey, wait a minute. But that's not the point of it. It's not about women here. This is not what he's concerned about. It's about the boys and about he knows that they're going to be the first generation of a great movement, right? It's because of these early disciples, both the men disciples and the women disciples. Um, it is because of their purity, it is because of their dedication and their renunciation that you and I know about these things. It's because of these strict ideals that they carried within themselves that we hear these things, that they made a difference in the world because they walked their talk. It would never have made it across the ocean. I would never have had this opportunity for this life if they had not had this level of dedication to their spiritual life and to their spiritual growth and to their protecting it. And as I read it, when I read it in understanding that it's not about the rules of women, it's not a statement about women. It's to the men about the importance of controlling themselves. And we live in a world where it's quite obvious what the world looks like when that's not the case. You know, it's not a small thing. You cannot look on another person as an object of pleasure and respect them simultaneously. And so Ramakrishna is protecting the men from developing that kind of attitude, that kind of view, of women, but to maintain that respect and to maintain that ability to not lust, to see others as objects, and so really, it's beautiful to me, this level of strictness, and God, it's challenging too, you know, because this is a very high bar. that he's placing there. Anybody have any thoughts about it or feelings about it or see it in a different way or concerned about anything in it? No? Good. I'm glad. It's a tough teaching, both sides of the fence. It's a very, very high bar. How can a man conquer passion? He should assume the attitude of a woman. All right. I spent many days as the handmaid of God. I dressed myself in women's clothes. I put on ornaments and covered the upper part of my body with a scarf, just like a woman. With the scarf on, I used to perform the evening worship before the image. Otherwise, how could I have kept my wife with me for 8 months? Both of us behaved as if we were the handmaidens of the Divine Mother. I cannot speak of myself as a man. One day I said I was in an ecstatic mood. My wife asked me, "How do you regard me?" "As the blissful mother," I said. Do you know the significance of the Shiva emblem? It is the worship of the symbols of fatherhood and motherhood. The devotee worshiping the image prays, "O Lord, please grant that I may not be born into this world again, that I may not have to pass through a mother's womb." A tutor of the Tagores entered the room and some of the boys of the family. Sri Ramakrishna continued talking. Master to the devotees. Sri Krishna has a peacock feather on his crest. The feather bears the sign of the female sex. The significance of this is that Krishna carries Prakriti, the female principle, on his head. When Krishna joined the circle of the gopis to dance with them, he appeared there as a woman. That is why you see him wearing women's apparel in the company of the gopis. Unless a man assumes the nature of a woman, he is not entitled to her company. Assuming the attitude of a woman, he can sport with her and enjoy her company. Right? That's a very interesting method there. To take the attitude of a woman, for a man to take the attitude of a woman when around women, which is basically seeing a woman as equal to yourself. That's what you're doing. You're taking away this manhood separation, and approaching a woman as a person, as an equal, without an interest of anything else in your mind. So it's a wonder. It's an interesting technique, an odd one for sure. Because I think about it, I don't know how many men would want to, approach women as a woman, and that's a statement in and of itself. Right there. Just that reservation that a man would have about that shows that there's a problem of respect in there. Right? Shows that there's something deep that does need to be addressed, and that's what Ramakrishna is talking about here.
Attitude of women can be that women are kind.
Yes.
Is it like that?
Yes. Well, it's just that. Yes, it is. It's that non-aggression.
Mm-hmm.
It's that the gentleness. The patience.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all of these, which I think are amazing traits that a
Yeah.
woman has. I see women with kids, and of course, both men and women can love kids and take care of kids, but a woman has an amount of patience in her that I'm in awe of. The number of times a kid can abuse his mother, and still for her to remain patient is is overwhelming. It's an amazing thing. And I've always felt like that is a beautiful way to approach this feminism is to highlight the strengths and the unique characteristics of womanhood, and to bring that out, and to understand that's a high ideal that's being presented. And it's interesting that when Ramakrishna is teaching his young men how to be pure, he says, take the nature of a woman, right? That's quite a compliment there. That's quite a significant statement. And that notion of really the problem between the men and the women is this charge of sex, this charge of lust that sometimes happens between people. And so he's really teaching them in a very strict way to just be extremely careful in the way that we view each other, right? That we're able to see each other as the divine, that we're able to see each other as people, right? That we don't, that we're not being led. What? I don't even know how to talk about these things in a real world sort of way, but not to look on each other as opportunities, to look on each other as people, and to keep the mind in that space. And for the men, it's to take on that womanly nature, and maybe I don't know, maybe he would tell the women to take on a manly nature around men. Don't be a woman in front of the men, and the men don't be a man in front of the women. You know. But a man must be extremely careful during the early stages of spiritual discipline. He must live far away from any women. He must not go close to even one, even if she's a great devotee of God. You see, a man must not sway his body by climbing to the roof. He may fall. Weak people should hold on to a support while they're going up the stairs. But it is quite different when one reaches perfection. After the realization of God, there is not much for a man to fear. He has become, to a great extent, secure. The important thing is for a man somehow to climb to the roof. After that, he can even dance there, but he cannot dance on the steps. Again, after climbing to the roof, you need no longer discard what you discarded before. And this is important to notice that this is a temporary state of things. This is not the ideal that he was presenting earlier. It's not the ideal for men to shun women. It's not the ideal for men to stay away from women, right? That's a necessary period of training, of discipline. The ideal is for us all to live together in a harmonious way where we're seeing each other as humans, seeing each other as people, seeing each other as temples of the divine, of our ideal, right? And to maintain that attitude. So that's the ideal. But reaching that ideal takes a lot of discipline, and that's what he's talking about. This, during the beginning of spiritual life, he's literally telling men, look, you're in such a state, and you've got such a thing going on with this whole ideal that it's better for you just to get out by yourself, go somewhere far away, and grow up, basically. Find your strength, find your discipline inside, and dedicate yourself to transcending, these things of body, mind. So a man must be extremely careful. Anybody must be extremely careful during the early stages of spiritual discipline, right? But when we reach that perfection, after the realization of God, there's not much for us to fear. He has become, to a great extent, secure. The important thing is for a man somehow to climb to the roof, and after that, he can even dance there, but he cannot dance on the steps. Again, after climbing to the roof, you need no longer discard what you discarded before. You find that the stairs are made of the same materials, bricks, lime, and brick dust, as the roof. The woman you have been so careful about at the beginning will appear to you after the realization of God as the Divine Mother herself. Then you will worship her as the Divine Mother. You won't fear her so much. The thing is to touch the granny, as the children's do in the game of hide and seek. Then you can do whatever you like. Right? So he's setting a standard here of importance for us. Right? It's your spiritual life first. That's a challenging statement right there. Uh, I'm glad I get to go to the shrine after this class. Just reading these things, it's always such a challenge. These ideals are so beautiful, so amazing, and so important, but challenging, really challenging. Right? So the most important thing in our life is to come to this spiritual security, this place where we're established in this truth, right? That we are not a body and a mind, right? But that there are I'm sorry, I got a text message that came up there from one of the nuns, and it caught my attention. Um, that we really need to take as a priority this establishment of ourself in spirituality, that we can't just see it as a part of our life. It's not a part of your life. It is the nature of your life. It's what you are. And to hold that level of commitment, that this is the point of having a body. This is a point of being here. And for us to really live like that and to establish ourselves in that, uh, so that we can carry this gift forward, all right, so that we can carry this beauty forward, this treasure, as it were. He says, man looking outward sees the gross. At that time, his mind dwells on the Annamaya Kosha, the gross body, right? So when we look out at the world around us, that's the sense world. We're using our senses, moving into the body. And so we need the body to enjoy those beauties, right? And to see all of these, to see this world and to look through it, right? Look through it, but not to be in it, or not to be of it, right? We can be in the world, but not of the world, as Jesus says, which means to know that you're looking through a gross manifestation at the gross manifestation, but to remember that you are spirit, to remember that you are not the confinement of egoism, that you're not this small point of reference. So a person looking outward sees the gross, sees all of these colors, these shapes, these smells, these uh, whatnots, sees the gross. And at that time, his mind dwells on that. When you're looking out there, you're dwelling in the world of the senses. You're enjoying the senses. You're enjoying the body. And if you're not doing that with some awareness that you're doing it, you're attaching to it little by little. It's convincing you that you are the body, convincing you that oh, being material is not so bad. Right? And little by little, so Ramakrishna says, as you walk down a hill gradually, it's not until you've walked for quite some time that you realize how far down you've come. And so that's what he's warning us about. We live in the world of the senses here. And if we don't have a constant remembrance of that, a constant mindfulness of our true nature, and to keep ourselves from being attached and from identifying ourselves in terms of body mind, that we're going to get ourselves in trouble. And the big deal about that is that this is the whole point of life, is to find your nature, to find what you are, and so that you can live true to that, in integrity with that. Right? Next, the subtle body. Functioning through the subtle body, the mind dwells on the Manomaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Next is the causal body. Functioning through the causal body, the mind enjoys bliss. It dwells in the Anandamaya Kosha. This corresponds with the semi-conscious state experienced by Chaitanya. Last of all, the mind loses itself in the great cause. It disappears. It merges in the great cause. What one experiences after that cannot be described in words. In his inmost state of consciousness, Chaitanya enjoyed this experience. Do you know what this state is like? Dayananda described it by saying, "Come into the inner apartments and shut the door. Anyone and everyone cannot enter that part of the house." I used to meditate on the flame of a light. I thought of the red part as gross and the white part and inside the red as the subtle. The stick-like black part, which is the innermost of all, is the causal. By certain signs, you can tell when meditation is being rightly practiced. One of them is that a bird will sit on your head, thinking you are an inert thing. I first met Keshab at a meeting of the Adi Samaj. Several members of the Samaj were sitting on the platform. Keshab was in the middle. I saw him motionless as a log. Pointing to Keshab, I said to Mathur Babu, "Look there. That bait has been swallowed by a fish." Because of that power of meditation, he achieved what he wanted, name, fame, and so forth, through the grace of God. One can meditate even with the eyes open. One can meditate even while talking. Take the case of a man with a toothache. The tutor of the Tagores. "Yes, sir, I know that very well." Everyone laughs. The master smiling. Yes, even when his teeth ache, he does all his duties, but his mind is on the pain. Likewise, one can meditate with eyes open and while talking to others as well. Well, there's a very interesting challenge right there, is to not stop meditating when you get up from meditation. Don't stop your japam when you get up, right? Keep it going and keep your mind in that space. That's how we get established in that space. That's how we get the freedom to not have to worry and don't have to be afraid of falling or of being tricked by the world, losing our bliss, losing our ananda, right? Losing our love for petty things. Tutor, one of the epithets of God is the Redeemer of the sinner. That is our hope. God is compassionate. Master, the Sikhs too said that God was compassionate. I asked, how is he compassionate? Why, they answered, he has begotten us. He has created so many things for us. He's brought us up to be men, and he protects us from the danger at every step. Thereupon I said, after begetting us, God looks after us and feeds us. Is there much credit in that? Suppose a son is born to you. Do you expect a man from another part of the city to bring him up? You see, I like this view here because it shows how it shows that we're heirs and not beggars of God. That in Ramakrishna's world, he was not at all surprised by the grace of God because he knew God. He knew that it wasn't an exception. He knew that it wasn't accidental. He knew that it wasn't an effort on the part of the divine. He's like, why call him compassionate? This isn't a practice of his. This isn't something that he's becoming or growing into. God is love itself. What else is he going to be if not compassionate? What else would he be if not full of grace and mercy? How could he be love itself? Don't be amazed at this. This is nothing, right? This is nothing. Take this for granted. Absorb yourself in it. Trust it. Know that it's not a spectacular thing. It's not an unusual thing. It is of God himself, herself, right? Trust it. Sit in it. Inundate yourself with it. Become covered by it. Why? Because then it inspires you. Then it'll bring the clouds away from your own nature, right? You won't get fooled. And you won't have to keep looking back at yourself and calling yourself imperfect, which is what happens when we identify with body. So that we look at ourselves and think we're weak, which is what happens when we identify ourselves with mind, right? But that we identify ourselves with spirit, and we take the grace of God as absolute, unquestionable, never feeling that we're not in it, never wondering where it is, never feeling like we're lacking, right? You see how well Thakur knew the beloved, that he wouldn't have called him compassionate. He's like, he's so much more than compassionate. you know, so much more than any of those words could ever mean. Oops. Okay. Tutor, revered sir, one man quickly succeeds in spiritual life and another doesn't succeed at all. How do you explain that? Master, the truth is that a man succeeds to a great extent because of the tendencies inherited from his previous births. People think he has attained the goal all of a sudden. A man drank a glass of wine in the morning. It made him completely drunk. He began to behave improperly. People were amazed to see that he could be so drunk after one glass. But another man said, why, he's been drinking all night. Hanuman burnt down. It's funny that he would choose that as a way of talking about a spiritual enlightenment. you know, he would pick a drunkard as an example, your a drunkard who's been drinking all night as his example for inheriting your spiritual tendencies from a previous life, right? It just shows you how closely intoxication and divine love were linked in Thakur's mind. That he looked at the drunkenness of a drunkard and he didn't see something separate. It reminded him of what? Of that divine intoxication, right? That's what Girish Ghosh saw in Ramakrishna as well. Girish considered himself a master of intoxication, right? And he went and told the Ramakrishna, he says, I've mastered intoxication, and still I've never been as intoxicated as you are in divine love. He says, I want to be like you. And the master says, oh, I can take you there. I can show you. And Vivek Girish, remember at that scene, he said, do I have to quit drinking? And the master laughs and says, no, that's just an external thing. The mother will remove it when she's ready, right? And so this just wonderful understanding on Thakur's part that God is so loving that to mention it is almost vulgar. To praise it is almost to show ignorance, and to think that it's an effort on God's part, or that it's a virtue on God's part, is almost blindness when compared to the reality. God is love itself. God is not a manifestation of love. God is not a partial display of love. God is love, right? And that if we come to know that, this world is the tavern of the beloved, right? And so we come to see this love. The truth is that a man succeeds to a great extent because of his tendencies inherited from his previous birth, which is also to say it's important to live well now, because this is your previous birth of the next one, if we're not devotees in this life, right? So do well, do well, right? People think he has attained the goal all of a sudden. A man drank a glass of wine in the morning, and it made him so completely drunk that he began to behave improperly. People were amazed to see that he could be so drunk after one glass. But another man said, well, he's been drinking all night. Hanuman burned down the golden city of Lanka. People were amazed that a mere monkey could burn the whole city. But then they said, the truth is that the city was burned by the sighs of Sita and the wrath of Rama. Look at Lala Babu. He had so much wealth. Could he have renounced it all of a sudden without some good tendencies of his previous births? And Rani Bhavani, so much knowledge and devotion in a woman. In his last birth, a man is endowed with sattva. His mind is directed to God. He longs for God. He withdraws his mind from worldly things. Krishnadas Pal came here. I found him full of rajas. But it must be said that he observed the Hindu customs. He left his shoes outside before entering the room. After a little conversation, I discovered that he had no stuff inside. I asked him about man's duty, and he said to do good to the world. I said, my dear sir, who are you? What good will you do to the world? Is the world such a small thing that you think you can help it? Narayan arrived. Sri Ramakrishna was very happy to see him. He seated Narayan by his side on the small couch. He showed him his love by stroking his body and giving him sweets to eat. Then he asked Narayan tenderly, will you have some water? Narayan was a student at M's school. At home, his people beat him for visiting Sri Ramakrishna. The master said to Narayan with an affectionate smile, you had better get a leather jacket, then the beating won't hurt. Turning to Harish, the master said that he would like to have a smoke. Again, addressing Narayan, Sri Ramakrishna said that woman who has established an artificial relationship of mother and son with Haripada came here the other day. I've warned Haripada very often. She belongs to the Goshpada sect. I asked her if she had found her man, and she said yes. and mentioned a man's name. To M. Ah, Nilkantha came here the other day. What a spiritual fervor he has. He said that he would come here another day and sing for us. They are dancing over there. Why don't you go and see it? To Ramlal, there is no oil in the room. Looking for the oil jar. The servant hasn't filled it. Sri Ramakrishna was walking up and down, now in his room, now on the south veranda, occasionally pausing on the semicircular porch west of his room. He would look at the Ganges. After a little while, he returned to his room and sat on the couch. It was past 3 in the afternoon. The devotees took their seats on the floor. The master sat in silence before them, now and then casting a glance at the walls. There were many pictures hanging there. To Sri Ramakrishna's left was a picture of Saraswati, and beyond it a picture of Gaur and Nitai singing kirtan with the devotees. In front of the master hung pictures of Dhruva, Prahlada, and Mother Kali. On the wall to his right was another picture of the Divine Mother, Raja Rajeshwari, and behind him was a picture of Jesus Christ raising the drowning Peter. Suddenly Sri Ramakrishna turned to M and said, "You see, it is good to keep pictures of sannyasis and holy men in one's room. When you get up in the morning, you should see the faces of holy people rather than the faces of other men. People with rajasic qualities keep English pictures on their walls, pictures of rich men, the king and the queen, the Prince of Wales, the white men and women talking together. That shows their rajasic temperament. You acquire the nature of the people of whose company you keep." This is a very important point right here. You acquire the nature of the people whose company you keep. Therefore, even pictures may prove harmful. Again, a man sees the company that agrees with his own nature. The Paramahamsas keep near them a few young boys, 5 or 6 years old. They allow such boys to be near them. Attaining the state of Paramahamsa, a man loves the company of boys. Like the Paramahamsas, the boys are not under the control of the gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, right? That purity of mind, that simplicity, that spontaneity, that joy of life, of being, right, is very apparent in young kids, 4 or 5 years old, right? And so these realized souls love love the children, love being around the children, right? Because they themselves are acquiring that nature, right? Becoming like little children, entering the kingdom of heaven, as it were, the kingdom of God. You acquire the nature of the people of the company you keep. By looking at trees, a man awakens in his heart the picture of a hermitage in which a rishi is practicing austerity. A Brahmin from Sindhi entered the room and saluted Sri Ramakrishna. He had studied the Vedanta in Benares, and he was stout and had a smiling face. Master, hello, how are you? You haven't been here for a long time. Pundit, smiling. Worldly duties, sir. You know I have very little leisure. The pundit sat down and the master began to talk with him. Master, you spent a long time in Benares. Tell us what you saw there. Tell us something about Dayananda. Pundit, yes, I met him. You also met him, didn't you? Master, yes, I visited him. He was living then in a garden house on the other side of the Ganges. Keshav was expected that day. He longed for Keshav as the chatak bird longs for the rain. He was a great scholar and made fun of the Bengali language. He admitted the existence of the deities, but Keshav did not. Dayananda used to say, God has created so many things. Couldn't he have created the deities? Dayananda believed the ultimate reality to be without form. Captain was repeating the name of Rama. Dayananda said to him sarcastically, better repeat Sandesh. Pundit in Benares, the pundits had great discussions with Dayananda. Finally, he was left alone with all the others against him. They made it so hot for him that he thought the only way to save himself was by running away. All the pundits shouted with one voice, whatever Dayananda has said is to be despised. Wow. I saw Colonel Olcott, too. The Theosophists believe in the existence of Mahatmas. They also speak of the lunar, solar, stellar, and other planes. A Theosophist can go in his astral body to all these planes. Oh, Olcott said so many such things. Well, sir, what do you think of Theosophy? Master, the one essential thing is bhakti, devotion. Loving devotion to God. Do the Theosophists seek bhakti? They are good if they do. If Theosophy makes the realization of God the goal of life, then it is good. One cannot seek God if one constantly busies oneself with the Mahatmas and the lunar and solar and stellar planes. A man should practice sadhana and pray to God with a longing heart for love of his lotus feet. He should direct his mind to God alone, withdrawing it from the various objects of the world. The Master sang, "How are you trying, O mind, to know the nature of God? You're groping like a madman locked in a dark room. He is grasped through ecstatic love. How can you fathom him without it? And for that love, the mighty yogis practiced yoga from age to age. When love awakes, the Lord, like a magnet, draws to him the soul." Continuing, the Master said, "You may speak of the scriptures, you may speak of philosophy or of the Vedanta, but you will not find God in any of these. You will never succeed in realizing God unless your soul becomes restless for him. Only through affirmation, never negation, can you know him, neither through the Veda nor through the Tantra nor the six darshanas. It is in love's elixir only that he delights, O mind. He dwells in the body's inmost depths, in everlasting joy." One must be very earnest about God. Listen to another song. Can everyone have the vision of Radha? Can everyone taste her love? This, the rarest treasure of all, no earthly wealth can buy. Without devotion and sadhana, none can ever obtain it. The raindrop falling upon the deep when Swati shines on high is formed within the oyster shell into a priceless pearl. Can such a pearl be formed from the rain that falls at other times? Mothers with their babes in arms may beckon to the moon to leave the sky and come to them, but only the babes are fooled. Does the moon ever leave the sky and dwell upon the earth? One must practice intense spiritual discipline. One can obtain the vision of God all of a sudden. Without any preparation, can one attain the vision of God all of a sudden without any preparation? A man asked, "Why don't I see God?" I said to him, as the idea came to my mind, "You want to catch a big fish. First make the arrangements for it. Throw spiced bait into the water. Get a line and a rod. At the smell of the bait, the fish will come from the deep water. By the movement of the water, you will know that a big fish has come. You want to eat butter, but what will you achieve by simply repeating that there is butter in milk? You have to work hard for it. Only thus can you separate butter from milk. Can you see God by merely repeating God exists? One needs sadhana. The Divine Mother herself practiced austere sadhana to set an example for mankind. Sri Krishna, who is none other than the ultimate Brahman, also practiced sadhana to set an example to others. Right? Sadhana, sadhana, sadhana. It's not just a part of our life, it is our life. It's the way you live today. Right? It's the way you spoke to people today. It's the way that you cared for people today. It's the way that you were gentle with people today, right? This is our practice, a constant mindfulness, constantly being aware of the presence, constantly being aware of the bliss within, constantly being aware of the peace within. To experience the inner world first, and from that place observe this external world, knowing it to be a play, right? Knowing it to be a constant manifesting of God, of his divine nature, without forgetting, without being fooled into thinking that we're in it and that we're affected by it, because we are not, right? Sri Krishna is the Purusha and Radha the Prakriti, the Chit Shakti, the Adya Shakti. Radha is the Prakriti, the embodiment of the three gunas, right? So this world of change is Radha, the beauty of God, right? This manifestation is the beauty of God. That's why we call it the divine feminine, right? It's the manifestation of God's beauty. The moment you think of water, you must also think of its wetness. In the moment you think of water's wetness, you must also think of water. Or it is like the snake and its wriggling motion. The moment you think of the snake, you must also think of its wriggling motion. And the moment you think of the snake's wriggling motion, well, you must also think of the snake. When do I call the ultimate reality by the name of Brahman? When it is actionless or unattached to action. When a man puts on a cloth, he remains the same man as when he was naked. He was naked, and now he is clothed. He may be naked again. There is poison in the snake, but it doesn't harm the snake. It is the poison to him who is bitten by the snake. Names and forms are nothing but the manifestation of the power of Prakriti. Sita said to Hanuman, "My child, in one form I am Sita, in another form I am Rama, in one form I am Indra, in another I am Indrani. In one form I am Brahma, in another Brahmani. In one form I am Rudra, in another Rudrani. Whatever names and forms you see are nothing but the manifestations of the power of Chit Shakti. Everything is the power of Chit Shakti, even meditation and he who meditates. As long as I feel that I am meditating, I am within the jurisdiction of Prakriti." Right? Try to assimilate what I have said. One should hear that the Vedas and what the Vedas and the Puranas say, and carry it out in life. It is good to live in the company of holy men now and then. The disease of worldliness has become chronic in man. It is mitigated to a great extent in holy company. All right. It's a good time to stop. Wow, that went very quickly.